To introduce me, I'm Beth McCarthy, Program Director at Web3 Privacy. Was working on this event and a lot of our other initiatives that I would love to speak about later when we are not running on a time limit if you want to find me after. I think each of them can introduce themselves quickly and also what topic they are particularly excited about focusing on in this world of digital rights, freedom, open internet, and privacy. And then we'll just run through a few quick questions together and then take some questions from the audience and move on from there.
Cool. So hi everyone, my name is Josh Davila. I wear many hats. I have a podcast called The Blockchain Socialist. I co-founded a project called Bread Cooperative. I think I was at the Cypherpunk retreat mostly to share about a specific project that we've been working on called Gas Killer, which is meant to help scale computation on Ethereum. So if you have methods in your smart contract that are very expensive, come talk to me. But one of the things that's really good for is for scaling ZK proofs on Ethereum. But yeah, was there a specific question?
Just what you were focusing on kind of in general about privacy and digital freedom or at the retreat.
Well, that was that was a big part of my focus was talking about that with people. And then I have a lot of interest in like journalism and privacy as well, since I do some of that stuff as well.
Thanks. Hi. So I'm Martin. So I've been working very much focused on how we can collaboratively solve complex problems more effectively in a decentralized manner. That's called the Coordination Network. And I guess there's been a lot of topics covered by the speakers. One that we're very interested in is how in this kind of AI augmented world we retain agency over our expertise. So one of the key themes essentially that I was interested in at the event is around private compute and how you can use those tools to augment your abilities while not handing over all your data. And I think as Leftarius mentioned, like handing over not only kind of your transactional history, but literally how you do things and how you solve things and your actual expertise. So that was one area that I was very interested in focusing on. And the other one linked to that is more on the narrative building side. So the threat that we're seeing today is that a lot of centralized approaches are, embedding themselves when it comes to the use of AI. And so how we can build narratives that increase awareness of alternatives. So in terms of using, for example, private compute, how can we build a greater awareness of that so that you raise the expectation of offering things in a privacy preserving manner? So the TLS attestation project could be a cool example of that, where, for example, like people have now started getting used to like SSL and having this little lock on their browsers. How can you do the same with private compute? So you know that if you're using a service that doesn't do that, you're aware of it. So those are the two pieces that I was very interested in exploring.
Okay, thank you. Hi, my name's Adam Burns. I work with the Dyn.org Foundation. The interest in working in the areas that I've been working with Dyn develops a locally run virtual cryptographic machine called Zenroom that offers configuration and workflows that are understandable in a human language-based DSL or domain-specific language. Myself personally, I also have interests in creating trust roots with our existing infrastructure, specifically for community networks and edge networks, IoT especially, as well as, oddly, a highly centralized but decentralized structure called the DNS, or rather secure DNS, DNSSEC, as a global initial trust anchor to then leverage off into other systems that you then may trust. As a trustful directory service, I guess. Anyway, so that's some of the stuff that I've been interested in. One thing about the conference, if I may say, is I felt that it was an amazing event because it's very rare to get such an interdisciplinary group of experts together. And what I felt that did was that it evened everyone out. Everyone knew that they knew quite a bit in their own particular area, from policy to law, to coding, to cryptography, and all privacy and everything else. But no one is an expert on everything. And so that leveled things out and allowed people to have very interesting discussions on interoperability, on the consequences of technology beyond the digital stack, etc. And I found that really vibrant and exciting because it's not often you get technical conferences at such a wide scope in any sense.
Cool. So, the reason for talking about something that already happened is partially as a call to action for how we can continue interdisciplinary discussions into the future. So I think one thing I would be interested to hear from you guys is right now privacy is under threat in so many ways, being surveilled at scale, from defense technology in a way that's very scary, having these chat control discussions happening around Europe. Like a huge realm of kind of attacks from all sides on digital rights. Where do you see Web3 technologies fitting into kind of this wider conversation, like either on an infrastructural level or fitting into existing tooling in a way that can be meaningful? Like how can we contribute to this privacy as an act of resistance and resilience in an increasingly threatened environment? You seem like you have a thought about that.
Could you hold the mic to get together like that?
Yeah,
Thank
sure. I'll pass them both along next time as well.
Thank you.
Yeah. Is this thing on? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. On your topic there, I think there's a growing skepticism about privacy being mediated by any system, whether it's a Web3 system or governmental database or whatever. I think that is increasingly important. I think the first speaker talked about keeping things close, local first, etc. I think perhaps this movement will get more and more popular. If you have something important to you, keep it close. If you delegate trust to data centers or providers, that's a bigger distance. I'd almost argue if you're not in sight of the power plug, you're not close enough. If you're not on the edge, you're taking up too much space and you're vulnerable. Maybe it's come to that, but maybe I'm becoming a bit of a prepper. I'm not sure. There's hopefully some.
So I think on the topic of call to action, maybe that's one area where I think what I'd be keen to emphasize would be where anyone. So one attendee made the good point, which links to I think one of the earlier speakers mentioning how when you talk about privacy, you talk about like these dark glasses and like the detective and so on. And one of the attendees made this point of like they had a conversation around how to make cypherpunk cypherpop, and I think this is was quite a effective meme on this topic. And so I think like building awareness of this and starting a movement that like looks to bring in people to, who might have experience from like narrative building and storytelling and so on, I think is a really important initiative now so that we have an active campaign essentially. So that was something that I talked to different groups about. So we now have a Signal chat called Cypherpop Media. So if anyone's interested in that topic, please come and speak to me because I think like we want to bring this conversation outside of kind of niches, essentially. And it's funny because in one of the conversations we had, we also raised like one of the most recent viral events was Matthew McConaughey talking about private LLMs. And it's like and other examples like PewDiePie has a guide for how to like get privacy-fied. And I think it's just how do we amplify and kind of consolidate those narratives so that it doesn't get drowned out by like, the alternative, whether it's like AI slop social networks or whatever it might be. I think a coordinated initiative around that is quite important. So anyone who's interested in that, I'd be very keen to kind of, help organize around.
I just need one of the mics.
Okay, yeah, already mic'd up.
I mean, in real terms, the thing that I see out of the Web3 space is basically funding for a lot of these cryptographic primitives that, at least at the technical level, are able to make certain differences or certain changes in how things work. In some ways, I think the crypto, I don't know. I don't. I may regret saying this, or I may disagree with myself tomorrow. But I think in some ways the crypto space is a little bit of a vanguard for the adoption of kind of newer technologies, especially when it comes to privacy. And I think Ethereum is kind of trying to take up that space in a way, and that's kind of encouraging to see. So yeah, I'm not sure if I have much else to add besides they already said great things.
Nice. I think you had something to add.
Hey, thanks. Yeah, just a brief comment. I really liked what you said about, again, like the interdisciplinarity of this conference, of investigating ways of getting this out. And you made me think, actually, I wonder how many people here have been to a crypto party. Hands up. I'm just thinking, and I ran one at Seabase for a couple of years. I'm just thinking. Yep, okay. I'm just thinking in stereo now. I'm just thinking perhaps we can apply such a model for outreach for privacy, Web3, and or otherwise the encroaching future of our digital lives and the importance of it in the style of Asher Wolf and the movement she built around crypto parties. That might be a good starting point. And I'd be interested in finding the Signal group address. Thank you.
So I have no sense of time. We probably have time for one more question or no more questions. I'm not sure. Okay.
Go for it.
So we'll have, I think one more question, like what do you guys see as the biggest challenge or barrier to either, widespread adoption of privacy practices or crypto integrating into the wider world of tech? Like I think the thing that Lefter has mentioned about, you can just look at a wallet address and see someone's entire past history of what their company was doing or what they were doing. Like it seems so antithetical, but in a certain way to like privacy preservation. So curious where you see as some of those sources of tension and if there's a solution space that you see around any of those.
I maybe have a little bit of a kind of non-answer, but I mean, I think the issue is that, every time, the thing with privacy in the digital space is that every time we move, we produce something, like, it's not that I'm trying to share anything with everyone, it's simply I do things and things get produced from that. And that's kind of like the norm everywhere. And that's also true in the meat space. Like if you want to have this kind of like, whoa, dude, kind of, realization of like the world is a computer, or like every time I move, the butterfly effect, me waving my hand probably kills, someone a billion years from now, because I moved a particle. Like there's always like something is always being produced simply by acting. So there's this like contradiction, I think, with there's a contradiction between community and privacy, essentially. That if you want to be in community, you have to reveal things. You have to go and do things and reveal things about yourself. And part of the building of relationships in a community is that I know something about you. I don't trust you if I don't know anything about you. So you cannot be private, and so you cannot build community. But I think, and the contradiction is also in the reverse, where I think privacy can also largely only be created through some sort of collectivity. That like this idea of being the kind of guy in the moving to the cabin and like living completely isolated from everyone else as being the way to live a truly private and like rugged individualist life is simply infeasible for a world with 8 billion people. So it's not like you cannot possibly think that like this hyper individualist approach could actually achieve anything meaningful. And so I think the biggest things I think you have to kind of realize is part of this maybe cypherpop move rather than cypherpunk is kind of like an embracing of like the need for some form of collectivity or collective forms of organizing and action that the original cypherpunk honestly just like didn't think about or really advocated really for ever. So I think at least at Cypherpunk Retreat, what I found that was really encouraging was that people were not. It was a lot more diverse in thoughts and types of people than you would have otherwise thought, or at least who were the original Cypherpunk guys. Were kind of like thought in a very particular way that doesn't. I think now, 10, 20 years later, like we've kind of found to be kind of limiting in certain ways. So to me, I think a movement towards recognizing this contradiction and how we not be able to solve every single little problem because of it, but like instead try to think of it as something that is, a larger issue that needs like many interdisciplinary view into it.
So in terms of, I guess what I would say is maybe combine both the barrier and an opportunity. Because I think one of the big barriers is essentially around kind of the complexity of setting up for living this way. Because I think the opportunity and because we also have been discussing with, for example, in Europe, government agencies on the topic of how they're going to be adopting kind of AI capabilities as a catch-all. And so what we've seen there is that there's just people are very much scrambling for like, what is their approach to adopting these new technologies right now? So there's a huge opportunity to package up new approaches on these principles as the solution, which is actually most aligned with their citizens' desires, to put it that way. And so I think doing a coordinated effort of how we package up these technologies now and have the solution to provide, because there's actively people seeking, so that we don't get drowned out by very well-funded corporate approaches. There's like time pressure to do this now. So but the opportunity is there that people are actively seeking, and I think this can be presented in a way that can outcompete any centralized offering. So I guess that's to say that it's a barrier to overcome of how to do that, but I think the opportunity is there that if we do that effectively right now, the window is open essentially to make it happen.
Yeah, thanks. I like your optimism in that. But yeah, I'm not going to go all ranting and raving and go all Ted K on the audience. But I am really inspired by a group here, and in fact, I've been involved in these initiatives for a couple of decades now. Have many people here, could you show hands maybe, have you heard of Freifunk here in Germany? For those that don't know, Freifunk is one of the most successful European community wireless networks. They run volunteer, free and open networking, local networking throughout Berlin and dozens of different regions around Germany. And I like that they made a sticker a little while back. I have it on my laptop, but not one here. Their sticker has a Freifunk logo, and it says, "Local is the new social." That's the catchphrase. And I really like that, especially when we start talking about communities knowing each other. And even though it goes so far as identity sharing, you were saying, privacy needs to be traded or communicated, things about you need to be shared. And in a sense, maybe identity can be a direct human thing. This gets hard when it's mediated by technology. It gets even harder when it's mediated by large companies running technology, global networks. So maybe there are ways that we can start to define spheres of comfort, spheres of human care within local communities for each other, and to start to embed these practices in our local lives. Just a thought. Be skeptical of anything further away from you. Not people, machines.
Yeah, there. That was a very elegant closing because I think, folks are doing a really incredible job of building a community here locally. And just a final thought for me, I think many of you may have seen the meme like going around of like the price of community is inconvenience. And it's funny that people are often saying this about privacy as well, like the price of using privacy preserving software is inconvenience. And, to get to the reward, I guess, for both of those things, then it's worth it to slog through. So please come talk to these guys after. They have many more interesting things to say than I have time to ask them about. I will also do a quick shilling for what we at Web3 Privacy are doing together with our friends at EF if you are interested in continuing these discussions. So we are having the Cypherpunk Congress in Buenos Aires, also running the Privacy Hub, and I still would love to have more people get involved as program curators for the different days there. So we'll have a research day, practical privacy applications day, governance and compliance and legal type of topics day, and also a lot of very intentional and careful matching to bring people from different skill sets together for the hackathon. So that is going to be super cool. And then we also are running this event with folks from the EF directly for like what is kind of the technical stack that is being built out throughout this year and throughout that week, and going really deep into a lot of cool nerd topics about things that are going on around topics like TLS, FAG, all of the acronyms that we love talking about with privacy. And finally, a Gitcoin round that we are running also with EF and specifically the Macy guys. And there we have several different categories. So education, infrastructure, DApps, and R&D. And I really encourage reading through this, which I will leave up here for a minute, and encourage people to apply. We really want to carry forward the like theme from what we were speaking about today of like we really need interdisciplinary efforts, people from within and also outside of Web3, and are very keen to fund this kind of work so that we keep basically fighting this fight. So thank you.
And